And greetings, happy Friday. Welcome to the Steve Deace Show here live and on demand on Blaze TV, radio, and podcast. I'm Steve Deace, he's Todd Erz, and he's Aaron McIntyre, going to be joined soon by our managing editor here at the Blaze, Rob Eno. But we are brought to you by The Last Stand, where I'll be making my last stand, maybe the very last, at the Denver TSA, trying to get back home, which will likely not happen. And you'll see me cutting myself in the corner. But I'm going to do it. Because America's worth it. Because it really is the last stand. And that's why I'm going to this conference. I'm breaking my 10-year vow of never subjecting myself to Denver TSA again for the rest of my life. But you're worth it, America. So I'm going to do this for you and my buddy Seth Gruber. It's his event. You can join me, Allie Beth Stuckey, Frank Turek, Pastor Rob McCoy, and more coming up the very first weekend in June in Englewood, Brave Church, Englewood, Colorado, suburb of Denver. Right? Join us as we also preview Seth's new film, ironically enough, called The Last Stand. Get your tickets today. The Last Stand, make sure the is in there, thelaststand.com. Use the promo code Steve, all right, to get 15% off at promo code Steve at thelaststand.com. All right, next hour, it's going to be your turn on a Feedback Friday, but first, let's kick this off. You know how we do it, with the Deace Group. Your weekly look at the week that was begins with saying hello to Rob. Good to see you, brother. You ready to go?
I am ready to go, and you should drive to Denver. It's only a 10-hour drive.
It's only.
Then you'd have to deal with TSA.
It's only. Then I'd have to deal with being on the road for 10 hours, both ways, so 20. So, yeah. Anyway, Rob, how are you?
Very good.
Very good.
Very good.
All right. Appreciate your driving tips as well. Let's get to it. Issue 1. Bleep, Lord Nefarious says.
Here on the south side, early morning, lots of runners coming by on the lakefront path, lakefront trail. Absolutely gorgeous. Here I am on the path on the lakefront at 6 a.m. on a Monday. And we got a lot of people running, having a great time. It doesn't feel like a hellhole here.
To the student from Loyola University, Chicago, who was shot and killed while walking with a group of her friends. A suspect tonight now charged in Homeland Security, now saying he is in the country illegally.
There have been real failures. Failure of the president to follow his own edict.
And it sounds like this might have been a wrong place, wrong time.
Do House Democrats believe if he's convicted, he's someone who should be deported?
I'll look into the case.
Will you take this opportunity to apologize to Sheridan's parents for the policies that you have promoted that directly caused her death?
Thank you for your questions.
You are right that has been the Democratic strategy for 30 years, maybe, and it has failed to deliver for the people we care about most, the undocumented Americans.
To all of the residents who participated in our snowplow naming contest, keep speaking up in every way and any way that you can.
I will put you in handcuffs, and I will put you in a courtroom, and if necessary, I will put you in a jail cell. If you decide to make the terrazzo floor of this airport anything like what you did in the streets of Minneapolis.
Let's vote for Gavin Newsom in 2028.
I vote for him because he got me released from coming home from a life sentence.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So he didn't hold me back. He didn't hold me back. He signed off saying I'm fit for society. So yes, I would vote for Gavin Newsom.
I would probably vote for Gavin Newsom too if I were you then. And what'd he do for you then? Or like what were you locked up for? If you don't mind me asking.
I was locked up for murder, carjacking, and robbery.
Yeah. Is it a good thing that Iran, and I think you would agree with me, epicenter of terrorism in the world since 1979, is it good that their military infrastructure is being degraded to the degree that it is? Yes or no? I'm simply asking on the military side, is it good, regardless of whether we agree with going in or not, is it good that Iran's military infrastructure has been seriously degraded?
And again, I have to tell you, Joe.
Let me answer the question for everybody in America. The answer, yes.
Well, I tend to believe Iran more than I do Donald Trump.
Until we have done everything in our power to bring the United States to its knees, let us not lose sight of the enemy. For every U.S. military base that crumbles, and for every U.S. soldier who returns home in a casket, we
don't say that Islam is here to live, to coexist with lots of different religions and all of us can just hold hands and be friends. This religion has been sent to dominate, to wipe out, to take out every other religion, to have the people leave every religion and to accept Islam. And if that requires fighting to achieve it, then it requires fighting to achieve. We're not shy to say it, and we don't find that to be something that we should be shy to say.
I solemnly commit myself before you to the service of the Church of England, the Anglican Communion, and the whole Church of Christ throughout the world.
Have you noticed a change in sort of demographics, the people who live here and so on?
Not particularly.
It's laugh out loud retarded. But we're poised to get obliterated by these people in 8 months.
Yeah.
Obliterated. We just lost Donald Trump's home state legislative district, which we'll talk about a little bit later on. But that's zapping some of my enjoyment, if not pretty much all.
The timing of the burqa'd person, though, about walking behind, that's just...
Yeah, I know. Let's get to it. Rob, you're the guest. You get the first crack at it. First question, what was the most debased debauchery you just saw, brother, and why?
I mean, this is just the new normal, so it's hard to pick one. But I would go with the guy who said, I love Gavin Newsom because he got me off. What'd you do? Killed a guy. I thought that one was pretty funny. But to go to the Loyola University student who got killed, I don't know if you saw that their newspaper ran a correction because they dared to call the person that murdered the student at the school an illegal immigrant, and they apologized to the illegal immigrant for not following AP style and calling them an illegal immigrant. We have the story up at the Blaze today. So, there's that one. Just fantastic.
Are you trying to get me to self-harm before I even get to the Denver TSA, Rob? No, you're not.
No, I thought it was Black Pill Friday. Is it not?
I made no such announcement. Did you, Erson?
It's just a vibe.
Is this a thing where you guys are at the end of Lent and you're at the end of your rope? So you guys are doing Black Pill Fridays? Is that what's going on here? Or?
Just a vibe.
Okay. Guys, I got to tell you, this is early in. We're early in. And I'm feeling, yikes. How about you, Todd? What was the most debased, I can't even say it now, debased debauchery for you?
Well, again, it's rare where something, Aaron's got a lot to do, but it's rare in these montages when something's accidental. Rolling out all of that, and then at the end having the Archbishop of Canterbury, that means we deserve it. That you just saw the prophet Ezekiel there, which I think it's like chapter 32 where he says sinners sin, and they deserve the wage of that sin. But if you know what sin is,
right. The watchman on the wall,
and you don't tell people what sin is, you're in for it. And the church has just abrogated all duty and responsibility for informing the world what sin is and what the consequences are, which is why you get the world you just saw there. And it's deserved. It's just. But you've got a game to watch, so I'm sure things are going to be fine. Or video games.
That'll preach. Aaron?
When the United States is under some form of chimeric Sharia, woke, intersectionality, totem pole law, and sons and daughters and grandsons and granddaughters, should we be so blessed to come up to us and say, Grandpa, Grandma, how did this happen? Well, we can say, I don't know. Or we can be honest with ourselves, much like Voldemort was honest with Lucius Malfoy at the end of Goblet of Fire. There were signs, my slippery friend, and more than whispers. That's what I thought of watching all of that. I do have to call out Nick Shirley, though, the YouTuber who really blew the lid off the Minnesota fraud thing. He's just bunking us, right? He hired an extra. Walking down the street of California now. He just hired an extra. Just hired an actor. Okay, he's trying to chase the next. Hey, get it. Hey, totally get it. You know, everybody's got to eat. Just trying to get that next 20, 30 million view video. I totally get it. I mean, there's no way.
Hate
that
the
he
game,
was,
not the player.
That he was walking down the street.
Caught a murderer? Yeah.
And caught a murderer who had been, you know, signed out of prison by Gavin Newsom. No possible way, right? Right? Right?
This is the closing dialogue of The Devil's Advocate, the incredible, monologue. The incredible diatribe monologue that Al Pacino goes on as the devil at the end of The Devil's Advocate is that montage come to life, man. I mean, I'm. This isn't putting me in a better mood than I was in yesterday. I'll just say that.
It shouldn't. But you put that in front. If Blaze viewing was required for every soul in America, you put that montage in front of everybody right now. You think it would change many people's behavior?
You know, that's a fascinating point. If we just grab 10 random 58-year-old suburbanites, male and female, 5 male, 5 female, right? Didn't even ask them who they voted for in the last election. And just made them sit in a room, just random, and just watch that. Wouldn't their reactions to it tell you all you would need to know about the conditions of their own souls?
Wouldn't their reaction to it be like the guy at the end of it? I see nothing. I know nothing.
This is my point.
Yeah.
This is my point.
Yeah.
I don't think it's going around these days. There's a video going around just within the last 48 hours. A lot of people on the right I respect. I can't believe their reaction. It's this spring break where they're just doing jaywalking basically, and they're asking them basic civics questions, and these are the dumbest people ever. And the conservatives are saying, oh, they're just kids, leave them alone. Like young, dumb kids don't turn into like even dumber adults. Like at no point we have to be concerned about like the next generation of citizens. The number of excuses we have to look in the face of that and just say, man, I got stuff to do. It's not so bad. I really, this is Isaiah 1. Where would you yet be struck? I have no idea.
Let's get to the exit question. On a scale of 1 to 10, with 1 being the odds that any female within the sound of my voice has to ever worry about being sexually harassed by Lindsey Graham, and 10 being the odds that every single male fighter pilot in the Israeli Defense Force does. Rank this week's level of total depravity. Rob.
I'm going to go with the 9. This just feels normal, like it's the new normal now. So I'm going to go 9, not 10.
I like that 9 is normal. I like that. 9 is normal now. That's nice. That's great.
Not 70. Not 7 times, 70 times. That's my answer is like big biblical math.
Yeah. Aaron?
10.
Yeah, that was a 10 for sure. Now, if your pain may not be at a 10, if it is, you probably need to go to a doctor. But if it just seems like it won't go away, that's where our friends at Relief Factor come in. It's not an antidote, not a panacea. But over the years, over 1 million people have tried the 3-week quick start from physicians who can prescribe drugs, but they wanted something drug-free that would go after what's causing that inflammation or causing that pain, which is too much inflammation in your joints. And that's something they created is Relief Factor. And over the years, 70% of the over 1 million saw such great results that they stuck with the product long-term. So why don't you see if you don't see a difference in your pain and a better quality of life in 3 weeks or less, especially because it costs you just $20 to find out. That's it. Just $20 to find out when you go to relieffactor.com. Get the 3-week quick start today at relieffactor.com. All right, let's get to issue 2. Is this one the biggest warning sign yet?
Republicans are facing yet another brutal electoral loss after Democrat Emily Gregory sailed through her special election in a deep red district. Gregory was elected to represent the 87th district in the Florida House on Tuesday night, securing 51.2% of the vote, while her Republican opponent, John Maples, won just 48.8%. The district, which includes President Trump's Mar-a-Lago estate, was previously held by Republican Mike Caruso. It's yet another eye-popping result in special elections leading up to the 2026 midterms, even more so when you consider Republicans actually turned out in this particular election meaning independents are breaking hard the other way.
So first question here, and I know it's still 7+ months until the midterms here, all right? But let's just go ahead and ask the question that a lot of people are asking. Are we cooked? Todd.
That's like my youngest, my 15-year-old daughter's favorite saying.
Are we cooked?
Are we cooked?
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. So I guess I'll say no. It is still so much time, and our narratives change so quickly. I mean, no one's going to mistake me on the show for Mr. Optimistic, and that's not what this is. I think the left is so evil and so decadent and so dumb. Improvement has to happen, Steve, in the time frame you're talking about, but it's not going to take perhaps as much as we think it will circumstantially. That being said, we might be.
All right, let's go around the horn and answer this question before I ask any follow-ups. Aaron, are we cooked?
As of this moment, yes. Do you want me?
I mean, you can expand. You don't have to.
I just think there are too many warning signs right now, and too many signs that is no even action or intention to action within much of Congress to deliver on President Trump's what we were told was a mandate and what I believed was a mandate, and to reset this for the upteenth time in the past year and a half. When you survive lawfare, when you survive a bullet to the head, when the enemy, both spiritually and mortally, tries to take you out at those levels, and you still live to tell the tale, and not only live to tell the tale, but attain the highest office in the land, I don't care by how much you win, that's a mandate. Then you throw in basically every single swing state went towards Trump, that's a mandate. So yes, it's a mandate. And yet the party that he belongs to, and yes, you can say all you want, and it is true to some degree. I don't know to what degree we can argue about that. To whatever degree he is responsible for some of these people being in office and not putting their feet to the fire, but they're not delivering on that mandate. We got one piece of legislation, the one big beautiful bill, and that wasn't even, I mean, it was passed, yes. That wasn't even done through the traditional process. That was done through reconciliation. They were trying to pull things out of, you know what, in order to get one thing passed in his first year. Other than that, what are we going to do? A housing bill? You can say the Lake and Riley Act as well. That was, I can't even remember. I think that might have still been necessarily Joe Biden when he was in office. But other than that, basically no major legislation, important legislation to the base passed. So as of now, reading the tea leaves, yes, cooked.
Rob, same question to you.
Not only cooked, we're going to lose the Senate and the House.
So cooked.
This Iran war thing is not going to end anytime soon unless Congress cuts off the funding. When people are paying $5 to $6 in gas, I don't know if you've seen, but in Australia, they can't keep gas at gas stations. That could be coming soon to you. When the petrochemical precursors to fertilizer, which you guys are just about to start planting up there in Iowa, in the nation's breadbasket, aren't there to make the ammonia that is necessary to make an adequate amount of food. Food prices are going to go up. I don't know if you've seen any of the polling, Steve, but the latest public policy poll, they're a Democratic firm, but they're actually very good, and they do not lie to their clients, unlike other people, has Tallarico beating both Cornyn and Paxton. You have the North Carolina Senate election where Tom Tillis decided not to go, and their wildly popular Democratic governor, former Democratic Governor Roy Cooper, is destroying all Republicans. You have the Nazi tattoo guy up in Maine has a sizable lead over Susan Collins. You have maybe one bright spot in that we're going to maybe win the election in New Hampshire because it looks like Sununu is polling consistently even. If you go through and look at these pollings, it is not great. And I do not see how we get out of this. And I don't think 7 months is a long period of time. I think this is baked in. Unless the economy turns around, I don't think we win.
Well, Steve, I agree with that analysis. My reason, because let's say for the sake of argument, we've gotten so used to people believing that the Republicans, they won't keep their promise, they won't do anything. Let's say the economy doesn't turn around, maybe even gets a little worse. But two political miracles happen, just for the sake of argument. Somebody major is arrested that everybody agrees should have been, Epstein.
We're waiting
something.
for Kash Patel and Pam Bondi.
I'm just saying, but see, this is my point, though. People don't believe so much now that it can or will happen, that if it does, they might actually think, oh my God, that people are rising out of the tombs. So let's say for the sake of argument, there's one major arrest and they actually pass the SAVE Act. Is that enough based on my principle? And here, see, this is what I want to know. Will people just believe, oh my God, Hosanna in the highest. This is a political miracle, which it would be, but is it enough? And you still say no, because I'm just not sure, because people are so off balance right now as voters. I don't know what they think they prioritize on any given day.
Here's the thing.
I've got a.
Go ahead, Rob.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
I was say I've got a piece coming out this weekend that basically says the SAVE Act won't save anything, because if you've lied to the voters, the SAVE Act saving anything, has the hubris of imagining that the American people that are citizens are going to vote for this bunch of clowns. And they're not, with what they see, especially when you talk about the independents.
The record would do so bad that securing the election wouldn't matter. We just lose straight up. That's what you're saying. I hear what you're saying. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yep.
So
I have never seen Rob Eno this black-pilled.
Yeah.
This is
wow.
This is a ride.
I mean, I know the Patriots lost the Super Bowl, but they've won like 8 or so.
I'm not arguing against it. I'm just like, wow.
Here's the thing.
I've taken my Daniel Horowitz pills this morning.
Yes.
It should be, even this early, it should be way too early to even ask this question. Okay?
That's kind of where I was, but I'm Pollyanna in this group.
The issue is here, though, that everything we would need to do to mitigate off of this, because listen, there's going to be an L this year. There was always going to be some form of L this year because we're up against history of what happens to presidents after they get elected in midterms historically, okay? But we don't... I could list off a handful of things they could do that are all somewhat relatively achievable, okay? Some would be easier than others, but none of them would be unrealistic whatsoever. None would be, okay? But as we're sitting here on March 27th, if I listed those things off and asked you guys how many of those things you think you're going to do, they're going to do, you might say 1 if we're lucky. And so that's where the we're cooked sits in, right? You're watching your favorite team and you're seeing the opponent stack the line of scrimmage. And you're watching your team come out in 3 tight ends, tight formations, and just run in between the tackles against a stacked box. And you know it's not going to work. You're watching it. You know it's not going to work. You know it's not going to, you're doing the math. You know it's not going to work. Consistently asking, to put all those eggs in that basket up against a loaded front is not going to work. And you're sitting there screaming at the TV. I mean, spread it out. Run a play action pass. Throw it on first down. Okay? And it's just your team just refuses to run any play other than what won't work. And what's happening here, we're unevenly yoked. We're aligned with a party, and it's not as many as it used to be. Trump's had too many horrible endorsements. He's also had a lot of really good endorsements at the same time. In many respects, I would say collectively, this is the most right-wing the Republican Party on a national level has ever been in my career. But the problem is there's too many stragglers in too many places, and the margins are too tight that they can essentially just thwart and stymie the entire agenda and kamikaze the thing. And there's just very little appetite to do anything about that. And the president just has never had the appetite to go after Tom Tillis and John Thune for not moving to the right the way that he has been willing to go after Chip Roy and Thomas Massey for when they get to his right. And so we're boxed in. The coach won't run another play. The coordinator doesn't know another scheme. So, it just feels like, guys, it's early in the second quarter here, okay? And yeah, we're behind, but there's a lot of game to be played. And did you watch the team? That's what you're saying. Hey, have you guys watched the team we're playing? Did you watch the last game they played? We're playing literal retards, okay? Yeah. But if we're just going to line up and run the same plays, we're going to run up and not do a damn thing, not arrest a damn person. Trump's going to do a fundraiser last night. We're going to have greatest margins of all time and golden age, okay? And, then no. Then we are cooked. We can do things so it would not happen. But I don't foresee we're willing to do any of those things. And I think that's where a lot of the frustration comes in. I'll let everybody comment on that. Go ahead.
I'll just really quickly say this analysis is all the more appalling considering the evil that they might do. The left is not remotely theoretical. We just went through it. COVID, transgenderism, etc. They're unleashing criminals who murder and rape out into the streets. And that's their promise that they're going to keep doing it. And we have nothing to answer it with.
Yeah, this is precisely what I think. Go ahead, Rob.
I was going to say, I don't think people care when they can't put gas in their car, pay their mortgage, pay their heating bills, do any of that. James Carville said it right. I think it was James Carville. It might have been somebody else on that 92 campaign. It's the economy, stupid. And the economy is heading towards horrendous because of this Iran war. The economy is going to head. It was already doing badly, but this is going to send the economy into a tailspin. And if we put, it's not just that. It's, you touched on the leadership that we have, right? We got a guy from South Dakota who they put up, who's never run anything in his life, right? Has he negotiated anything? He's been a politician his entire life, going up against one of the best negotiators in the country that grew up in New York politics. Chuck Schumer, completely out of his league and gets completely and utterly outmaneuvered at every single opportunity. So I just, not to continue being, it's this economy. I think people care about the other stuff, but if they can't put food on their table and they blame Donald Trump, I have friends that were with Donald Trump when we were with Ted Cruz, when Donald Trump came down that escalator, who are never voting for a Republican again. One of them takes his kids when he goes to vote now in the local elections and asks them, loudly while people are listening, who should I vote for? Mickey Mouse, Donald Duck, who should get the city council or the selectman race thing? Like, that's what he treats elections as now. People are upset. They feel like they've been lied to. We were given a mandate, as Aaron said. Donald Trump is the only Republican president since 2004, after the 9/11 attack, to win a plurality of the vote, to almost win an outright majority, and has the highest electoral college victory of anybody since George H.W. Bush on the Republican side, and it's been completely wasted. That's just, that's where I am. Probably not a great place. Wish I was happier, but that's where I'm at.
Aaron?
Other than that, Republicans.
How was the play, Mrs. Lincoln? Yeah. Indeed, yes.
Republicans have a wonderful singing voice. But what you said just a few moments ago, Steve, is what I said to kind of open this round of dialogue. Republicans, 85% of them, and maybe this is being too generous to what I'm considering the 10 to 15%, 85, 90% of them are great at attaining something. They're not great at actually doing things. They're great at winning elections, getting a seat at the table, not so great at actually governing. In the time of, the Democrats are obstructionists. Yeah, they're an anti-American demonic construct. We've already established that. So what are you going to do now? You're going to cower to Mitch McConnell? You're going to cower to Lisa Murkowski?
Yes, apparently is the answer.
That's just not going to sit. It's just not.
I don't have energy for the exit question. I'm spent. I'm a spent force. But we'll come back nevertheless.
The Steve Deace Show.
All right, back here on the Steve Deace Show, and we are powered by our friends over at Select Quote. Life insurance has never been cheaper than it is today. Get the right life insurance for you from our friends over at SelectQuote. All right? You can get more for less. Save more than 50%, in fact, at SelectQuote.com/Steve. That's right. Save more than 50% on term life insurance today. All right? SelectQuote works for you. They go find the best policies for you. If you've got some pre-existing conditions, they go find folks who will still represent and insure you. All right? So go there now. Save more than 50% on term life insurance today at SelectQuote.com/Steve. Get started there. Get started today at SelectQuote.com/Steve. All right, back here on the Deace Group with our managing editor, Rob Eno. Let's march on with a weekly look at the week that was. Let's go to issue 3. Did we just Harriet Myers Donald Trump?
Let's go back to the immediate aftermath of the Texas Senate primary earlier this month, where Ken Paxton faced off against incumbent Republican John Cornyn and forced the race into a runoff. President Trump, in short order after that primary, announced he'd be endorsing a candidate soon and expected the other candidate, who he did not endorse, to drop out of the race. Ken Paxton, in a brilliant tactical move, announced he would be willing to step down as GOP Senate candidate so long as John Cornyn and Republicans in the Senate pass the Save America Act. So far, President Trump has not followed through on an endorsement in the race.
So we were going to address this a couple weeks ago when Rob was last scheduled to do the Deace Group. We had to take that as a personal day for unforeseen reasons. And then we had last Friday off. I wanted to hold this issue over because I do think this is a potentially important domestic political moment. And for people that don't remember Harriet Myers was George W. Bush's original pick for Samuel Alito's seat in the U.S. Supreme Court. And the base collectively lost its mind over this. It was really the first time we'd ever really seen what we now call the online right. This was the very early days of the internet. And this is really where Eric Erickson and Red State kind of made, their bones. They kind of led the charge here, organizing national online grassroots resistance to this. It was very clear that this was just not an acceptable play. All right. I think, Rob, remind me, wasn't she Bush's personal lawyer, I want to say? Is that who Harriet Myers was?
I think so, yeah.
All right. She just essentially...
I think so.
She just had no...
She might have been like the White House counsel or something like that. I don't know if it's like his personal lawyer, but yeah.
Yeah, but she had no real bona fides, and no one wanted to take the chance on this. And it was kind of the first time we saw real resistance from the right to George W. Bush, and it ended up working out because that's how one of the reasons we got Samuel Alito was in that trade-off, right? And I wonder if what Ken Paxton did here, because what we saw after that Trump statement, and I think I predicted on the show that I thought Trump was going to come out and endorse John Cornyn and say we have to move on. And then the next day he put that Truth Social post out and my heart sank, right? And we saw people, I mean, you don't get more MAGA, for example, than Ned Ryan, okay? And Ned Ryan is out there saying this, I mean, he's like Gandalf, this shall not pass, all right? Everybody's losing their minds over this. And at that point, Paxton came out, made the statement, you know what, I'll step aside if Cornyn promises to support the amending the filibuster so that we can pass the SAVE Act. And I do think that boxed Trump into a position that ended up, I think, being politically to his benefit, just as the revolt against Harriet Myers boxed George W. Bush in to making a choice for the Supreme Court that ended up being to his benefit, our benefit, and also the country's. All right, so... is that what we just saw on our side? What do you guys think? Did we box Trump in to this position?
In as much as you can box Donald Trump in, yes. But there's also just Trump Hulk where, if it's the wrong day and he wakes up and he'll just smash all this. But it's very, and the reason it boxes a guy in who doesn't like to be boxed in, and quite frankly, is a lot like you, Steve, when you say, I'll just, out of spite, I'll just do the opposite thing.
If you try to threaten me. Yeah.
But this is it's not just him. This is like my abortion analysis where the people who have all the hard cases, and I say, okay, well, fine, I'll give you those. You give me the rest, and they'll never do it. This puts everybody, the pundits, the other politicians, in the same box that Trump's in. And that's why it's really good that one guy, Ken Paxton, it's not. It's good for self-preservation, but it's also good for everybody to understand enough games. What are we really doing here?
Rob.
Yeah, I mean, I think it got Trump to refocus on the SAVE Act, right? It's when Paxton said that, and I think we all know that he was going to support Cornyn, because why wouldn't he? Because he was told that Paxton would lose to Tallarico and Cornyn would not, is probably what a lot of the people say. It's the whole reason that the third candidate was in there, was to get us to a runoff. It's the entire reason that candidate was in there, so that because Cornyn wouldn't have won a straight primary, but maybe he'll win, this second one. But if did it force Trump's hand into not endorsing the worst of the two candidates? Yes, I think it did, and I think that. But I don't think that we're going to get the SAVE Act passed, and I don't think that we're going to stop the filibuster. We could stop the filibuster and fix a lot of the country's problems if we wanted to, and we've not done that since because, history and decorum and play nice with people that want to kill you. But, I think that it did, in this slight instance, put a renewed focus on the SAVE Act and probably stop Trump from endorsing, the person that's more the rhino in the race.
So there's a reason, Aaron, I'm bringing this up, because I think in an environment where the polling continues to just degrade, and heading into next year, if we are cooked, and what next year will look like, where we're constantly facing impeachment, we're dealing with a guy who is basically a lame duck, pushing 80 years old, is already bound and kind of, shall we say, unpredictable and eclectic. I think that if we did Harriet Miers Trump, we may have an abject lesson, a precedent that has been set here that we may have to do a few more times. You see what I'm trying to say?
Yep.
So what I'm trying to figure out is if this was a random set of circumstances or we forced the action here. Okay, because if we force the action here, I'm going to tell you right now, there's a few more times like that what judge gets nominated to replace Samuel Alito. We're going to have to force more actions here if that's what we did.
Not trying to black pill. Not trying to black pill. Isn't there two people that's boxed in, though? Aren't there two people, to be grammatically correct? The two people boxed in. One is Trump. Now he just can't make an endorsement. That's the only way he's boxed in.
Right.
The other person is John Thune. Either save one of my favorites in John Cornyn and pass the SAVE Act, or I don't pass the SAVE Act, and probably it's going to be Ken Paxton. If he actually can beat James Tallarico, which I have my doubts about. Which it's nothing against Ken Paxton. That's another story. Here's where I'm kind of blackpilling. The whole concept of forcing action, that only applies if the people that you are forcing actually care. Do you think John Thune and his kind of ilk, do you think the Lisa Murkowskis, the Mitch McConnells of the world, they were there since before you were born, and they're going to be there till after your grandbabies are born? You can't force them to do anything. That's kind of the message so far that we're seeing. So again, I'm not trying to blackpill, but this I think it was a brilliant strategic tactical move from Ken Paxton. I just think that's objectively true. And to do it when he did and make the decision, that was some great political instincts right there.
It was a deft move, no doubt.
But you accomplished one thing, preventing Trump from endorsing and trying to box John Thune in. And I think what we're seeing is you can't box in people who are shameless. Like shameless about anything higher principle. You can call Trump on a stage. Trump is pretty shameless in debates. Pretty shameless. When it comes to the machinery, he actually has a set of principles. They're not maybe the same principles that you and I would think, or maybe not even defined as principles the way you and I would define them. But basically, it's let's make a deal. Let's get everybody happy here. Nobody is too far from, my good graces. Nobody is too close to my good graces that they could, fall out of him at the same time. There's some sort of framework there, and it's the art of the deal. With the Senate Republicans, though, they have no ideals. It's just Okay? We'll try to get what we want, and we'll try to lie to you to get what we want. If you make it so we can't get what we want, who cares? We're going to be here tomorrow anyway.
I'm going to change the exit question. Did Ken Paxton make a mistake running for this seat? Would he have done way more good remaining as the Texas Attorney General? Aaron, what do you think?
No.
Okay.
So long as Chip Roy is his replacement, go for it.
Todd?
All the things you say about, Chip, Senate versus being there and what you can do notwithstanding, taking out Cornyn in Texas was worth taking a shot at that.
That's a good point. Yeah. Senators do have more power than congressmen, right? They can vote on justices' appointments. Yeah. What do you think, Rob?
Yeah, I think I don't think he made a mistake. I mean, I like Ken Paxton. I think he's been an effective attorney general for us here in Texas. I don't think that Chip Roy is going to win that primary. You've got Aaron Reitz endorsing the other guy. So I'm not sure that Chip, it would be great if Chip won the primary, but I don't know if Chip Roy is going to win the runoff in a couple weeks. That's not what I'm sensing on the ground in talking to people, even from based Catholic friends that I have who weirdly are not supporting Chip, who are supporting the other guy. And we're very, very strong with Reitz. But yeah, I think it was.
What's the other guy's name?
It was he.
Exactly.
Starts with an M.
Exactly.
Yeah. Not Chip Roy. No, but people who are voting know it. I mean, I told you, I possibly backpilled. I might not vote.
I'm sorry,
I didn't vote
Rob.
in the other
I wasn't
primary
trying.
because my mom.
I wasn't trying to pull your pants down because I couldn't remember his name either, and I'd never heard of him until election night. I'm sorry, I wasn't trying to pull your pants down.
I mean, he's extremely wealthy, and he's going to put a lot of money in the race in the next two things. I don't think he's ever practiced law a day in his life, but which gives some pause. And when I vote, I will vote for for Chip Roy, who's been a very good state representative. So, I will vote for Chip, but I'm not sure that it's going to get it. But yeah, I think it was right. I just think that I don't know if we keep that seat with either Cornyn or, based on the demographic shifts here in Texas. You've come around here, right? I mean, Dallas certainly the greater Dallas area, Steve, isn't exactly Texas. It's more, Bombay or Mumbai.
That is very true. Yeah.
It's shocking. So yeah.
All right, let's get to the kicker topic. Real quick, we have 5 minutes left. What would you tell Trump to do in Iran, Todd?
Well, there's several things, but why don't he start with that magical present that was in Aaron's montage, I think just yesterday from Iran? And he said it's oil and gas. To Rob's concerns, what exactly is that magical present besides just words?
Aaron.
Yeah, I think they said yesterday it was like 5 tankers of oil or something like that. Made it sound a lot more mysterious and interesting.
No, he's a master brander. Yeah, that's his thing.
What would I tell Trump to do with Iran? If you have a coalition to try to reopen this, if there is a straightforward way of reopening the Strait of Hormuz and then handing that off to your Gulf Coast countries in like a month's time, do that and then leave.
Rob.
I'd say leave, tell Israel and the Arab states that don't like Iran to fix it on their own and just cut bait. It was a disastrous plan from the start. Yes, the mullahs are horrendous. We should have never done it. If he puts ground troops in, which is looking like he's probably going to do to take Karg Island, that would be disastrous. So I would tell him not to do that, but I would tell him to cut bait and leave.
Listen, I'm not going to sit here and play military strategist on the air because I don't know anything. But from a messaging standpoint, it just kind of feels like from the moment you launch this, knowing you were going to be able to guarantee the free flow of energy through the Strait of Hormuz was kind of a primary thing. You see what I'm trying to say? Like a primary objective, like day one, that has to continue on, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's why it can't just be magical presents.
And so we're discussing this now a month into this, So, but I maintain.
I mean, in the future, I would tell him.
Every time
I tell him to put pressure on the Quds. Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, that's right. But I still maintain that every time a member of the Iranian high command is killed, an angel gets his wings. Let's get to predictions. Aaron, go.
I think that a month from now, we actually will be able to have probably the most clear picture of how the midterms are going to go. I've been maintaining ever since July of last year that if there was going to be an economic rebound, that would really start to set in around tax season when people get their tax returns / tax refunds back. If the economic sentiment is not better in a month from now than it is right now, you will know for sure. I think what the overarching sentiment will be heading into the midterms, meaning if people have gotten their tax returns back, even if they're better and they still don't think things are better economically, that's going to be tough to turn around.
All right, 2 minutes. Go quickly, Todd.
There's going to be an actual arrest from the Biden administration. Tulsi Gabbard signaling that today on the Ukraine Biden money laundering operation.
Okay, that's something. All right, Rob, go.
Rather than a black pill one, because I've been sort of black pill the entire time, I'll go back to my normal Boston jingoistic sports fan thing and say that the Celtics will be the world champions in basketball in the NBA this year.
Nice. I'm going to actually go against Rob. I think Tallarico is toast, even in this environment. And the reason why is, even though I predicted a few weeks ago, he'll raise more money than Beto because the godless will send all their money there. But he's airing opinions that just fundamentally are un-Texan, like against meat and other things. All this oppo is now all out there. And the one thing Republicans are not going to lack for, they may lack a message, they may lack a resume, they may lack candidates, but they're going to have plenty of money, all right? They're raising gobs of money, okay? And they're going to pump that message of Tallarico essentially being on the wrong end of normie Texas on virtually everything, where there was nowhere near this level of oppo on Beto. He was way smarter, way more of a subversive candidate. That's what made him so polished from an image standpoint. I mean, this guy is literally this guy is like if we constructed the candidate to run against, it would be James Tallarico. Okay, I mean, I just think that oppo even in this environment, he'll raise more money than Beto. I think he'll lose more than Beto will too. Good to see you, Rob. Thank you as always, brother. Take care.
Good to see you.
You bet.
Thanks.
Well, let's see if the inbox is as black-pilled as this last panel was.
That's gonna be tough.
All right, we'll get to it with some Feedback Friday coming your way next. Stay tuned.
It's the SDS on your TV station. Turn it up. We roasting the whole crew. No hesitation. Hey, Ron, keep the show on track. Pushing all the buttons while he carries the pack. Mr. Smooth Operator, silent in his seat. If chaos is a fire, he control alt delete. He's the brain with the shades and the steely stare. Holding down the fort like he just don't care. When the tech goes boom and the screens go black, he's the wizard in the booth bringing everything back. Deace Group, run the show. Hey, ho, ho. Pumpkin spice, man, that's a no. Steve Deace preach truth like a prophecy bomb. Dropping hot takes louder than a car alarm. Talking kilowatts, pumpkin spice attacks. In times where the news better check those facts. Michigan warrior with the snow-covered frown. Shouting at the stats, man, calm down. Yet he's calling every shot like he owns the place. With the pumpkin spice flowing and the scowl on his face. Hey. DJ Scratch Sample. I said, oh ho. I said, oh ho. If you diss the crew, you get roasted cold. If you diss the crew, you get roasted cold. Toddy in the house dropping fashion crimes. Walks in the room, shirt 10 years behind. Master of disaster, chaos on his mind. Laugh so loud, neighbors calling 911 to complain about the grind. Sharp tongue swinging like a wrecking ball. He'll dunk on your take and make you feel small. Did a tweet, start a fight, you can bet he's involved. Stir the pot, boom, the mystery solved. Who keeps the jokes flowing? The crew. Who keeps the truth showing? The crew. Who keeps the takes blowing? The crew. Steve Aaron Todd, you know what to do. Hey, hey, ho, ho. Steve Deace Crew, run the show. Hey, hey, ho, ho. Classic beats and a conservative flow. Hey, hey, ho, ho. Steve Deace Crew, run the show. Hey, hey, ho, ho. Classic beats and a conservative flow. DJ drop the mic, podcast kings. Freedom bells ring like ding-a-ling dings. Keep roasting, keep hosting, keep bringing the heat. SDS, that's the show you can't beat.
I got to tell you, I needed that. I did. Bad. I've been down bad the last couple days. I think everybody listening to this is down bad after that hour. So I needed that. Thank you, Aaron. Welcome back, Hour 2 here on the Steve Deace Show. I am he. He's Todd Erzen. He's Aaron McIntyre. Let us know what you think about what we think via the stevedeace.com inbox, which you can access by emailing us, steve@stevedeace.com, DEACE. Like us on Facebook, We, and Gab. Follow me at Steve Deace Show on X, Instagram, and TikTok. You can also subscribe to our YouTube channel at Deace Show on YouTube. That's at Deace Show on YouTube. And then finally, if you wouldn't mind, if you are part of our podcast audience, please hit subscribe or on Apple iTunes, follow, and that'll ensure that every time we do one of these new episodes, you'll be assured that it's right there in your podcast feed. You can also leave us a 5-star review, as so many of you have, tens of thousands of you, in fact. So thank you for each and every one of those. And thank you for your support of Conduit Clothing. Let's keep that going. They've still got some of those Bibles right now that they want to send out with every single purchase of their cool gear. Casual gear, T-shirts, hoodies, and more, all very comfortable, but also with a message, your chance to literally wear your faith on your sleeve via Conduit Clothing. All right, CONDUIT, conduitclothing.com. Use the promo code Steve, and you'll get free shipping and also, while supplies last, a free ESV Bible so you can give the Word of God to somebody who needs it. All right, conduitclothing.com. They've got a lot of cool gear, a chance for you to show everyone where your allegiances really lie. Conduitclothing.com. Use the code Steve for free shipping and get that ESV Bible so you can share it with somebody who desperately needs the Word of God. Conduitclothing.com, promo code Steve. All righty. Are we ready for some Feedback Friday? It's been a couple weeks since we've done one of these. You guys ready to go?
Let's do it.
All right, let's rock and roll here. This is from John K. All right. Many times you have mocked Christians for taking Jeremiah 29:11 out of context. Jeremiah 29:11 is, for I know the plans I have for you, plans not to harm you, but to give you a hope and prosper you, to give you a future, says the Lord, because it's in the midst of perhaps the most depressing book in the entire Bible. The book of Jeremiah, that one verse aside, is pretty much what you just heard in the last hour from Rob Eno, our managing editor here at The Blaze. All right. He wants to know, John K. wants to know, what would you say to those who use the phrase seed in Genesis as the plural interpretation, as the reason to consider Jews to be God's chosen people versus Paul's singular interpretation in Galatians 3:16? And how would you respond to those people who use the Abrahamic covenant in Genesis 12:3 to claim that we are required to bless Israel now? Are these legit questions or not? Or do we not have integrity in defending our positions? Well, first of all, they're absolutely legit questions, which is why I'm leading off the Feedback Friday by addressing it. First of all, there was a period of time where unquestionably the plural seed referred to, and I'm not going to get too far into the weeds here. I appreciate, John, your specific scripture citations, though, respect for that. But even though we are a biblical worldview-driven show, we're still trying to reach the widest audience we can, okay? So I'm trying to avoid getting into weeds so we lose people, right? So let's not use plural and singular then. Let's do it. The references that you cite to who the seed promise goes to in Genesis 12:7, 13:15, 15:5, 22:18 that you're citing. And then also Genesis 12:3, which is what Ted Cruz quoted at Tucker Carlson last year. Unquestionably, there was a time that everyone agrees, there was a time that applied to the Jewish people. Everyone agrees with that. The debate is whether it still does. But no one has ever doubted. Was there a Jewish nation?
Yes.
Was there a nation of descendants of Shem, Semites, that were nomadic people, right? With a man named Abraham of Ur of the Chaldees, all right, that was called out of that region by God, right? Brought into a region where he was told his ancestors hundreds of years later, all right, would populate the world in a land flowing of milk and honey, right? And in fact, when Moses steps on the scene, does the word of God not say, and God remembering his covenant with Abraham, right? To make sure that this is the line of descendancy from Abraham to Moses, is that is rightly dividing the word of God, correct?
Right.
So and that was manifested in the nation of Israel and for all the years that it existed until 110 AD, correct?
Right.
Is there anybody who's a non-heretic in the history of Christianity that does not believe until 110 AD these verses referred to the nation of Israel?
You're on solid ground.
Yeah, no, there wouldn't be one. Okay, so was there ever a point in time Jeremiah 29:11 meant some stupid salutation for your homeschool graduation? Was there ever a time that it meant that? No. So was there ever a time that Jeremiah 29:11 was ever in context as just some kind of broad, chin up, kid? The sun will come out tomorrow. Bet your bottom dollar that Jeremiah 29:11 tomorrow there'll be sun. Has that ever been the context of that verse in the entire history of the scriptures?
No.
Was there at least a period of time where the seed promise being the Jewish people, and through the Jewish people was the proper context of these verses? At least a time.
Sure.
So therefore, the debate is whether that time is past or whether that time is ongoing, correct?
Right.
So therefore, there at least was a period of time, and what is being said currently by some about these Jewish verses and the seed promise were true. There was never a time our current application of Jeremiah 29:11 is some kind of just, go get him, kid. Punch in the arm. God's got this for you.
Right.
That's never been true. You see where I'm going with this?
Yes.
Yeah. So sure you can ask the question, John. They're just not anything remotely true at all. They're just not. They're not. The circumstances don't apply at all. Because the way Jeremiah 29:11 is misused at literally every homeschool graduation in America, okay, is completely out of context of the verse as it was intended. The seed promise verses that you're referring to were at least during some period of time applicable specifically to the Jewish people. We're just simply debating whether that time has passed. So they're not the circumstances aren't the same. Have I explained that thoroughly enough? I'm asking. I mean,
you've explained it thoroughly enough. I have no idea if this is going to address him to any level of satisfaction, but I can't tell anymore.
Okay. Did I miss anything there, Aaron? Do you think did I not clarify this enough?
I think the Jews made you say whatever you said.
Exactly. I said it more subtly. Between the lines, Aaron just said black and white. Tramp stamp tattoo. That's what Aaron just gave you.
I'm going to say this out loud too.
Oh, no.
Okay.
He is hanging on by a thin thread when he says stuff like that.
Yes. There was a line Cardinal Ripperger said recently on Sean Ryan. And so here's how you can tell. Let me just give you a little tip. And in fact, I said this at my small group the other night. So let me just share it with all of you.
You're pro-Jew and pro-Catholic too?
Okay.
No way!
Pete Buttigieg's 28. But I said, here's how you can tell if someone just has a serious theological issue with Judaism, believes, and there have been Christian thinkers and Christian thinkers who matter and have been significant in the church who believe that essentially that covenant is over and God has moved on, okay? And here's how you can tell whether they're in that camp or they're just using this all to camouflage anti-Semitism. Cardinal Ripperger said to Sean Ryan in that interview that was over 4 hours and was riveting. One of the things he said was, and it was I think it was clearly beyond Sean's theological understanding, because he asked him what that meant and then kind of moved on, right? But Cardinal Ripperger said, if you really want to be exact about it, there hasn't been a Jew in like almost 2,000 years. And Sean said, what do you mean? He goes, well, because that sounded very provocative. He goes, well, they haven't been able to perform any of the sacrifices since the temple has been gone. So there's been no blood atonement on any sanctified altar for their sins. I mean, that's the sealing, that's the confirmation of the covenant. They haven't been able to perform that since the temple was sacked. So therefore, there haven't really been, if you want to look at it just from a purely theological lens, they haven't been able to confirm their own atonement for 2,000 years. They can't do it now. Now, see, that's the kind of thing you say and nuance you articulate if you may have serious theological misgivings about Judaism, but you're not like an anti-Semite. None of the people that we're being asked to follow, Candaces, the Fuenteses, and I'm going to even just say the Tuckers now, have anything close to that level of knowledge of what in the world Cardinal Ripperger is even talking about. Nor are they even seeking it out. But that's a serious theological point. Might be wrong. But that is a serious theological point. What you're being fed by people claiming, for the most part, 99%, in fact, 99% of what you're being fed as, we have to discover the distinctiveness of Christianity from Judaism, and we can't be associated with Judaism, and they're the synagogue of Satan, and they rejected Christ, is all cover and camouflage for hatred. Hatred. They are hijacking our faith and wearing it as a skin suit. They've hollowed it out. Because what they really just want to do is hate Jewish people. What Cardinal Ripperger is saying is, you guys haven't been able to practice true atonement for your sins, your sacrificial system, for 2,000 years. How are your sins being atoned for? They're not, and that's why you need Christ. That's your atonement. And the reason why you've not been able to confirm the atonement for your sins for 2,000 years is because Christ confirmed them for all time on the cross. So your sacrifices are no longer needed. That's what he's saying. That is a serious theological point. Worth arguing, worth debating, worth maybe even losing relationships over, because people's eternal destinies are at stake based on whether that is true or not. That's in none of what you're hearing. That's in none of what Joel Webbin is saying in his ilk. That's in none of what Carrie Prejean is saying in her ilk. Tucker Carlson would look at me like, what is this ancient Arabic language you're speaking? But none of these people are capable of making that level of point, because that's not their point. They have a narrative in search of points. Like Aaron asked earlier this week, if eyewitness evidence, a confession and handprints on the murder weapon aren't good enough for you, what evidence of Tyler Robinson's guilt would be good enough? And the answer is, it's got to be Yuri Manischewitz in the 7th floor with the candlestick of Mossad headquarters, or it's not. It doesn't count. This is not an attempt to call people to repentance. This is not an attempt to declare Christ as king. None of that. That's all a scam. And they're taking the Lord's name in vain, because what they really just want to do is hate the nation of Israel and Jews in particular. That's what it's about. And you can tell, because what they're saying has nothing that would provoke people to seek Christ and repentance and atonement for their sins from the Lamb slain before the foundations of the world, but for just their particular narrative to get forwarded. And that's really all they care about. Tell me I'm wrong.
Oh, you're not. And you can, quick point of order, you can use Ripperger anytime you want to, but it is Father, not Cardinal.
I'm sorry.
Well, no, don't trust. If the Catholic Church still had the resolve to make that guy Cardinal Ripperger, we'd be having different conversations every single day, because the church would look a lot different.
Aaron, you okay with what I just said?
Yeah. I mean, you mean to tell me that maybe the people who are twisting themselves in pretzels for very unspecified inferences and insinuations and no definitive statements, questions. Are you insinuating, Steve, that they might not be on the up and up about what their true motivations actually are?
I think it's quite possible. Yeah,
the people who only ask questions, make insinuations, make subtle inferences.
Yeah,
maybe they're not being so subtle about their motivations.
Yeah, I think it's entirely possible. Yeah. All right, let's march on. John Cahill writes, having flown in and out of Denver International Airport more times than I care to count, since I live in Littleton here, I know the TSA there all too well. I am in therapy now. On the bright side, I've discovered the meat grinder with which you can run your privates through before the line. Trust me, it does help to ease the pain.
That's
Even Denver TSA is too much suffering for Erzin. Even Erzin's like,
Well, actually,
we cannot do the Denver TSA.
to be fair, like almost any. Is it any worse than any place else right
Yes,
now? Look,
yes,
look across the
yes,
country.
Yes.
I've been there.
Yeah. Tucker Carlson called and said the Denver TSA is not better than Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. Okay, I mean, it's bad. Yeah, it's really bad. Yeah.
I've slept overnight there. Spent like 48 hours. Yeah. I mean,
I've flown through there many
I've seen
times.
time.
I've never actually. I think I've been through TSA there once, but that was in like 2009.
Oh, Aaron, that's where we just had the joy recently when we were meeting Steve.
Yeah, that's right.
We were
through-
like,
yeah.
we circled in the worst turbulence I've ever been in for like, we just circled through it. It was amazing.
Yeah.
This better be a good event, Grouper. Becca Huth writes, Steve, love the show. I've been watching for a few years. You had a lot to say about love your neighbor on your show. Why isn't Lindsey Graham your neighbor? I get it. He's an easy target. Come on.
Oh, man.
Oh, that's some Jesus juking right there.
Let's move on.
That is.
Yeah,
That is.
comfortable.
All right. First of all, if love your neighbor, well, are people criticized by those who, Jesus said, love your neighbor as you love yourself, right? He's the one that gave the law to Moses, right? He's the one that then summarizes that, right? Those 2 commandments in the New Testament, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Is Jesus ever critical of that same person there in the Bible that did those things, that gave us love your neighbor as you love yourself, God incarnate?
Yes.
Is he ever critical of anybody?
Yes.
Yes. So then therefore we can infer that love your neighbor as you love yourself does not mean you can ever be critical of somebody.
Correct.
In fact, is he, but what, you know what, maybe it's like an outlier. Maybe it happens like once in like all of the Gospels that Jesus is critical of anybody. It just happens just like one random time, and so let's not take it out of context, right? Is that how it works? Was just one random time, and that's why we all remember that Jesus got upset and criticized somebody? No, it happened quite a few times,
Yes.
right? All right, cool. What about the Old Testament then? Because if Jesus was God, then the one that calls the Jews stiff-necked, and the ones that sent the prophets to pronounce judgments, and the one who sent the Israelites into Canaan to urban renewal the place would have been Christ, right?
Yes, yeah.
So again, he's the one that's giving us the law of love your neighbor as you love yourself. And yet at the same time, he's clearly not just waxing poetic about how he's up with everybody, and he's just here to take Jeremiah 29:11 out of context from now until time immemorial, correct?
Correct.
So that means then that there is a context for criticism as far as loving your neighbor as you love yourself, right? So we would then have to look at, again, that same Lord in his word. When did he do things that may not seem loving to us? Because he's not going to violate his own law, right? Okay. So they may not seem loving to our sinful sensibilities, but yet nobody's more loving than the one who laid down his life for us, right? So when is he being critical? When is he being stark? When is he being provocative? Is it just to randomly just find the most easily picked on person and beat them down? Is that when he does it? No. It's when people are in the way of the truth, misrepresenting the truth, deceiving people away from the truth, or have just flat out given themselves over to darkness. That's when we see.
Well, maybe that's where the real question, because this isn't the first time this has come up. Do people, you think, just struggle with the fact, why is he more guilty of that than anybody else you could be picking on at this time? I'm just
that is a totally fair question. I mean, it's largely subjective. The answer is, but that's a totally fair question. You could certainly come to the conclusion we've gone too long with it and too far with it. I even came to that conclusion and got rid of it for a while, and then it was just, and frankly, mostly women that requested it return.
You keep pulling me back in.
Yeah, but yeah, you can belabor a point, sure. Okay. Now, one way to avoid, though, testing this theorem, just going to throw that out there. One way to avoid testing this theorem is to no longer be the person not standing in the way of truth and deceiving people. Thoughts. Like if you think maybe you're beating a dead horse and made your point, could the dead horse stop doing that, right?
Stop being a dead horse?
You see what I'm trying to say? I mean, like if you're tired of your parents, yelling at you because you're not getting up in the morning for school, have you considered getting up in the morning for school? Have you thought that might be the solution here, right? So I mean, is the solution the solution could be that if you're tired of Lindsey Graham being mocked and derided on our show as a war whore without any of his own children to risk, and has lived a mysteriously single life while selling us out on virtually every issue that matters at least one point in time in his career, is it possible that he could just, if he were not a closeted homosexual, a war whore, voting against us all the time, would we be mocking him like this?
No.
Are there other non-closeted homosexual war whores that vote against us all the time that we just mock just for the fun of it on this show on a routine basis?
Well, we do. There, to be fair, there is only one on our homosexual depth chart. I mean, maybe they feel like.
Well, there's Scott Bessent, who is number
Yes.
one. See, that's what. Do we mock Scott Bessent? He's out of the closet. He's doing an excellent job as Treasury Secretary. We have nothing to good. He's number one on our homosexual Treasury Secretary power
maybe these
ratings.
people just want that list to expand. Maybe that would make them happy.
So the real issue, therefore, is who Lindsey Graham is and what he does and what he believes. Correct?
It should be.
Right.
Do you think all these letter writers that have this complaint live in South Carolina and have a guilt complex?
Well, I don't know, but that doesn't mean that your question isn't good. It's a very good one. It doesn't mean we shouldn't be testing our own. Our own proclivities and motivations all the time as believers. We should be. You're right. Okay. But I think we also have to consider that what's the premise of the deriding of Lindsey Graham? Did Jesus just walk in on a rando day and just turn over money changers and just start whipping people? Because he just, he was having a day. Is that what he did?
It is not.
No, there were reasons. There was a reason why he behaved that way, right?
Yes.
All right. So there's a context to it, correct? Right.
Yes.
All right. So if Lindsey Graham were not a closeted homo voting against us all the time and a complete and total forever war whore, would we be mocking him as such, do you think?
Maybe not.
No. But since that is what he is, that's what we're doing, correct?
Correct.
If the Pharisees were not being whitewashed tombs and broods of vipers, would Christ have called them that, do you think?
No.
If Simon Bar-Jesus were not behaving as a son of the devil, do you think that Paul would have just, called him that right out in the middle of the street?
No.
What about if Philip was not whoring with his brother's wife? Do you think John the Baptist probably wouldn't have called him a whoremonger, but maybe a pretty swell guy?
I think this is all a long way of saying on a scale of 1 to 10.
And we're done. I think we're good. That was a good exit question. All right. In other words, Todd said you made your point. Okay. Got it. All right. Joe Vasicek writes, Christ taught that his kingdom is not of this world, yet many on the Christian right consider voting Democrat to be a greater sin than Trump's adultery. If the Christian right takes and holds political power, the gospel message will only reach half the country. For God's purpose is to be fulfilled, his people must be humbled, and the church must not be entangled with partisan politics. Well, first of all, if you're concerned about the church not being entangled in partisan politics, why do you care about what people think about voting for Democrats then? I mean, you see what I'm trying to say? If you think that the church has no place in partisan politics, well, apply your own standard then. Number one, I'm not even sure why you'd listen to a show like this. Partisan politics is part of what we do, right? We cover it every day. Secondly, how would you even know what a Republican and Democrat is? Why would you, have any care for it? You'd be above all that. You'd be beyond all that. Thirdly, why would you care that people criticize Christians trying to be Democrats if you don't think we should be involved in partisan politics? This is a little bit like saying everything's relative. Well, wouldn't that have to be an absolute statement? Judge not. You're very judgmental, which means you would have to judge me to come to that conclusion.
Do you know what my new favorite one is?
Yeah.
People who say, I hate playing the condemnation game. Anybody telling me to condemn or dismiss another person, I'm not going to play that game. So you're condemning the people calling on you to condemn other people?
Yes, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I just, frankly, I don't understand your point.
Well, I don't understand it either because guess what? Every person you're going to vote for, Republican or Democrat, name Trump or not, they're all going to be sinners.
This is the key point. Yes.
And you should consider the degree of the sin they have in fact committed in the past. But elections are also about the sins you think people are going to commit or are going to fight against in the future because you are electing somebody for tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
And a while. Donald, have you been watching our show since 2015? Because I was here, a witness to it all. Steve weighed heavily the sins of Donald Trump. I mean, we've rolled tape. Aaron, this has been live the whole time, hasn't it?
Yeah.
So we've seen that.
Yeah, I found out today that I've not really been covering the Epstein
Yes.
allegations at all. I found that out. It's amazing what I find out about myself online or reading my inbox. Yes.
But then we've also found out, much to our surprise in many respects and sometimes not, that Donald Trump has gone after the sins of this world more aggressively than most Republicans in our lifetime. And you have two generations on this show, Steve and I's and then Aaron's, who on some level have testified to the reality of that situation, correct?
Correct.
Are those prudential judgments? The degree to which this seems to me just another version of Trump derangement syndrome. Listen, Bush Jr. did cocaine. Everybody's got a checkered past. But again, we're back in Ezekiel. I've mentioned that recently. If you sinned in the past but decide to do good in the future, good on you. If you've been really good in the future and now you decide to become wallow in the depths of sin, bad on you. I'm being explicitly biblical there. But which is why I, like Steve, do not really understand in the name of the Lord what math you're doing.
Yeah, the moral equivalency here is off the charts. And are any of us GOP fanboys? Do we have an elephant hat with draped in flags here? No. I'll just tell you, about 2 months ago, House Speaker Mike Johnson, somebody who has just been a paragon of everything this show stands for, right? Just totally a watcher on the wall all times, right? Not so much. He came out with a lengthy, detailed, and excellent biblical hermeneutic on the issue of immigration. That in and of itself, I think, is maybe the greatest example of the difference between the Republican and Democrat Party. Not because I think the Republican Party is ever going to necessarily follow through on that hermeneutic, but at least we have a standard that we can apply to the Republican Party to at least, if we decide to in the future, hold them to that standard. You get no such thing with the Democrat Party. All that it is a demonic construct and chaos. Again, not to say that the Republican Party doesn't lead to worse Democrats. That's something we've said often. But to paint a moral equivalency there is just off the charts weird.
More in a moment.
The Steve Deace Show.
All right, back here on the Steve Deace Show, powered by Jace Medical. You never know when that could ever happen here. It happens here again. I mean, it keeps happening, frankly. That's why you want to get the Jace Go, a compact travel medical kit designed for moments like these. Contains physician-prescribed medications for common travel illnesses, infections, stomach issues, and other problems that can derail a trip, when the culture goes derailed, not derail your health, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Just one of the many things they have at their disposal at Jace, so that you can be prepared as much as you possibly can. Go check out all the great options they have at Jace. And make sure when you pick the one that's right for you, enter the promo code DACE at checkout for a discount on your order. That's promo code DEACE at JASE.com. Promo code DACE at JACE.com. Again, get the discount with the promo code DACE when you check out at JACE.com. All right, ready for some more Feedback Friday?
Yes.
All right.
For sure.
Let's go. You know, this is a third different John. So Johns are on fire today, right? John writes, I was intrigued by your recent discussion regarding Venezuela and its oil reserves. So I reached out to a couple of friends of mine that work as petroleum engineers and chemical engineers and asked about why we aren't seeing an increase in oil commodities coming out of Venezuela. They told me there are two main issues. Number one, since Venezuela nationalized their oil production, they did not have the high-end input on maintaining their systems, thus the overall system has degraded due to a lack of consistent maintenance and oversight. My friend's rough estimation for bringing the Venezuelan oil system back up to a place where it can really produce at a high level may take as long as 5 years. Second, the oil in Venezuela is not like the oil we pump out of the ground in Texas or in the Middle East. They described it as, quote, extra heavy crude, end quote, which requires additional fluids added in to dilute the oil so that it can be transported and refined. Thoughts?
I've also heard that the oil coming out of Venezuela is what our Gulf Coast refineries are more set up to take, because that was the original arrangement, was it not? American companies actually went into Venezuela, set up their infrastructure. Eventually, it was nationalized, and that's why we've been so pissed off at Venezuela for so long, because they stole from us. They stole from our businesses. That oil had to be refined somewhere, and as I understand, our refineries on the Gulf Coast were set up for this heavy crude. So I'm not sure how much. So the rebuilding of their own infrastructure over there, absolutely, yeah. But in terms of what they can actually pump, from what I've understood, I mean, they already sent a tanker, multiple tankers to our ports anyway, is what I understand. Again, these are all things that are being said out loud. I don't know, who knows how accurate they actually are in terms of actually refining the oil that they can pump. From what I've understood, again, we're set up to handle that.
You have any thoughts?
Well, that all sounds reasonable to me.
I don't know if it's true, but it does sound reasonable. Yeah.
And I know also that those are the only kinds of questions you can ask on what can they all do for us, because I'm absolutely certain when it comes, could we do things? Could we make sacrifices here where we lower our own energy consumption and get uncomfortable? This is why I always bring up the air conditioning conversation, because just there's realities we will not entertain as Americans. Somebody's always got to make us feel comfortable. And sometimes you can turn a small boat around on a dime, and sometimes it's the Titanic, and it's going to take a while.
Let's continue on. Tom writes, boots on the ground in Iran would be a disaster, resulting in a Ukraine level of death and destruction. They'll never surrender. Their next wave of leadership is ensconced deep underground where bunker busters can't get to them. And as soon as we do our last victory lap and head home, they will reemerge and start building the Iranian death to Israel and the great Satan war machine all over again. Then maybe 5 to 10 years from now, we do this all over again, but with the same minimal damage to us and our allies compared to the poor Shiite dopes. I think that's the best we can do. But it will be a bad look if it turns out Iran had a bunch of missiles and drones tucked away and they start using them as soon as we go home. So there are risks here. One can only hope the president has been given really good intel. Thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I believe that all on the ground, and it all gets it's compelling no matter what. It gets all the more compelling when there's like no promise on a new Iran coming out of this thing, which was one of the psychological. Steve, you've admitted on multiple occasions that was one of your buy-ins, that there seemed to be something going on there, that you could actually tip this cow over.
Yep.
And it wasn't just ridiculous warmongering going on. So yeah, boots on the ground equals disaster, more or less, full stop.
Yeah, I don't even think boots on the ground invading some of these islands. I don't know if you've looked at the geography over there. And again, I'm not in the Pentagon. I'm just trying to apply critical thinking, some level of intuition that God's given me, what have you. Smarter than the average bear. I just kind of think, logically speaking, you look at most of the islands hugging the Iranian coast, they're pretty close to that coast. Meaning, you put boots on the ground on any of these islands, don't you think you're just kind of putting a bunch of boots as sitting ducks really close to the mainland Iran? Any of those islands. Whether it's Karg, whether it's the one that's closer to Bandar Abbas, I think I'm saying that correctly, south and east of Karg Island, that's closer to the Strait of Hormuz. If you put boots on the ground on any of those islands, you've just got sitting ducks out there. Everywhere. So boots on the ground anywhere, including the islands, maybe even especially the islands, I don't see how that doesn't turn out poorly. As degraded as Iran's military is, I just don't see how that turns out poorly. I'd like to hear an argument for securing the enriched uranium Doesn't that also involve moving heavy earth-moving equipment in and out and securing a vast perimeter around that site? I mean, there's just, in terms of putting boots on the ground, I don't really see any good options, like slam dunk options.
I don't either. I don't. And this goes to what I said a few days ago. We're getting into the portion of this now where the things I was worried about prior are now the kinds of things that we are discussing here. Okay? And listen, I have an immense amount of faith in the president from a foreign policy perspective because he's earned it. I mean, he's given me reasons to have them, right? Which is probably the only reason I am not, in the fetal position right now as we speak. Okay? But there were serious questions going into this that have to be answered, and many of them have not yet been answered. And we're getting to the point where we're either just going to leave and say, all right, I guess we'll see you guys again in 5 years, when you, that might be the world we live in. I'm open to that. Okay. But I also think we have to have a better solution than every 5 years we're just going to wreck the price of natural gas in America, for the foreseeable future. That's not a sustainable model for an economy, right? Okay. And that's why I brought up the Strait of Hormuz question last hour. I mean, I would kind of think one of your primary objectives before you launch this is that you're going to do because this is the only leverage Iran has. Everybody knew going into this they could not stand up to us militarily. The only leverage they had is that taking your belt off and spanking them. Okay, let me give you an analogy. Everybody knows when your kid's a brat in public, you need to discipline your kid. Okay. But if you choose to do it in public there, that's where your kid has some leverage. He can act out, stop beating me. Yeah, if he's an ingrate brat, right? Okay, and the whole situation can turn on you. See where I'm going with this? Okay, right? So you do it in a way, all right, that he doesn't have that leverage anymore. That's why, parents have been saying, moms have been saying since time immemorial, wait till daddy gets home. That's why dads have been saying, wait till we get home, okay? Because if you do it right then and there in public, the kid may overreact on purpose, may play up the leverage he has, and you may end up looking like the bad guy. Similarly, everybody knew that Iran had no chance against our military, right? Well, I mean, everybody, I guess, other than Douglas McGregor and Tucker Carlson knew that Iran had no chance against our military, right? Everybody knows this. But the one piece of leverage, their version of, in my previous analogy of the kid screaming and yelling in public is that strait. So, I don't know, wouldn't it just seem as if having that contingency on complete lockdown before you go in and do something like this would be paramount, right? I mean, I'm getting emails from friends of mine that work in the financial sector telling me, our analysts are telling us the price of natural gas might be wrecked for the next 6 to 8 months. Might even be well into next year before this gets fixed, what's going on right now. And I think you have to understand how concerned I am to get somebody like me who I'd be open to buying a deck of cards with the faces of every member of the Iranian high command who's been killed in this fight and commemorating them at my poker table every month. I'm that guy, okay? And so if I'm at the point I'm like, okay, well, what's the exit here and what's that look like? You know what I'm trying to say here? Because I'm your target demo. I'm a Trump voter. I'm the guy that grew up, with Iran as our mortal enemy. We're laying the wood to them. I'm your target demo here, man. Okay. And I'm like, okay. Why is diesel $6 a gallon? Am I just rambling? Tell me. I might just be rambling. It's possible.
Well, we're all rambling and trying to find, it's not just on this issue. We're trying to find answers in a lot of places that don't seem as there might be some genuine nuance, sure, but not nearly as complicated as we all make them. But not only aren't we getting closer to the answers, we seem to be getting further away. So yeah, you have good company.
Dr. Jeff Darville writes, Steve, your interview with Mike Huckabee last month and conversation regarding the Israel issue has been very helpful. It prompted me to actually reconsider dispensationalism differently. If prophecy is judged based on its fulfillment, then dispensationalist Darby and the Scofield Reference Bible is evidence for a good track record because it was published in 1909, revised in 1917, predicts the formation of a Jewish homeland around Jerusalem, and then Israel became a nation in 1948. This is a significant historical, spiritual, and political event that we must understand today. It doesn't mean we must agree with all of dispensationalism, but we need to be honest about the signs of the times. I'm glad you brought this up, Jeff, because you'll hear people criticize the Schofield Bible notes, and for Theo nerds, those were the notes where a lot of the dispensationalist stuff got really hammered into a lot of American Protestantism at the turn of the century. All right. The great irony of all this is pretty much everything the Schofield Bible notes predicted is exactly what ended up happening. That's the great irony of this. All right. And so this is where you cannot just act like the people don't agree with you are retards all the time. There's a reason really smart people think that this is a prophetic nation. And they weren't handed a Schofield Bible in Sunday school in suburban Mississippi in 1914. Hey, mammy. After we have the Negroes pump the cotton, can you give me my Schofield Bible and my single syllable talking points for Jesus? They're just not morons. People, they're real serious. The entire Moody Bible Institute, maybe the most preeminent university of American Protestantism in its history. This is what they teach. And I'm sorry, don't Jew me 62 on X. You're not smarter than them. I'm sorry you're not, okay? Did I say they were right? Did I say that was the right eschatological position in anything I just said?
No.
Did I say, though, there are reasons really smart people think these things?
Yes.
Yes. Is it not also true that most of the people claiming the term dispensational on social media are not very smart and have no idea what it actually means?
There's a sizable chunk of that.
Yeah. So that's the great irony of all this. See, what all the people attacking the Schofield Bible notes never want to tell you is pretty much what they predicted in the Schofield Bible notes actually ended up coming true. Now, did Schofield say on May 15th, 1948, the second week of Daniel will be? No, he didn't do that. But everything that's in his notes is kind of what we're living through right now. Could be a coincidence, could not be. I don't know. But I do know that a lot of the people attacking this aren't serious theological thinkers and instead are just out to be anti-Semites and Jew haters. And they're trying to intellectualize it. So like it's the critical thinking, smart position. And it's not. And they're not sincere. And they're terrible. Did I leave anything out? Did I cover it? Think we're good?
Other than the fact, one really interesting thing about the Moody Bible and the Schofield Bible notes.
Yes.
They're called the Moody Bible and the Schofield Bible. They put their names on it. They're not called the Anon Study Bible.
There's that too. Yeah.
Which is where a lot of the
D.L. Settle guy. Yeah. He originally, true facts, he originally named the D.L. Moody, or the Moody Bible Institute was originally named Cracker for Hana. Because he was afraid of taking criticism, and he wanted the whole thing to be on the down low. But then he was convinced at the very last minute to go ahead and name the thing after himself. Is that what you're talking about?
That is.
Yeah.
One interesting point, if you don't mind me bringing it up.
Of course, I was going to give you guys the final word, so go ahead. It's yours.
It is
yours.
I'm curious about it. The timeline of the way things happened. There's a counter argument that the onset of it is what helped speak it.
Oh, self-fulfilling prophecy? Yeah. That there was so much energy placed into how and here's why, because the Moody Bible Institute was keeping the fundamentals of Protestantism together when the main line was going left wing, right? And so did it raise such an emphasis, and then the Holocaust happens, and then our people are like, they need their own homeland? That is very possible.
Because that's spoken into existence, and then is there at the end of the 19th century, beginning of 20th century, when Herzl comes along and says, got this idea. We go back to, he's looking at the time is finally ripe. I never could have pulled this off before.
Now, is it also possible that those were all pieces because it is the right eschatology, and God put all those pieces together on the chessboard to make it to that's all? I don't know. I don't know.
I do. It didn't, because I'm Catholic.
All right. I don't know. But yeah, that's a very valid question, that it raised awareness so much it created a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Look what we did. We just had a reasonable conversation about complicated things, and we didn't say we hate Jews once.
Correct. We didn't have to be racist or anti-Semites or low-grade rednecks.
And you're Steve and I'm Todd, and we said it. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And we're still heterosexual even.
That's true. That's important.
That is important. Very. As a matter of fact, very.
I really wasn't worried about that being clear, and then you decided you had to for some reason, and I don't.
Oh, there was a lot of Lindsey Graham talk earlier. So.
Which begs the question.
Yes. I ain't no homosexual or nothing, but I like the way you handle your rig. Indeed.
I was doing some research. There are 3,200 gas stations in the country of Iran, which means that U.S.-Israel coalition forces, to this point, have struck 4 targets for every gas station in Iran. I think we maybe need an off-ramp, or we need to figure out what's happening next. If we've struck 4 for every gas station they have.
Go hard, Romans 8:28.